This young man was reincarnated into another world, and he also had a system. But although it's a system, Hanju's system is very strange. Not only does it pretend to be a dice, but every time it rolls, the result is basically the same, like it's cheating. This time, the reward it gave Hanju was to live to over 100 years as a virgin, despite the fact that he died. Hanju was so desperate that he angrily shouted, "Ah, damn it! Who wants to be lonely for their whole life?" 10 years had passed, and this useless system hadn't given him any good talents. He was reincarnated, but his life was still a mess. Although he complained like this, the system was Hanju's only hope. He would keep shaking it, never giving up, and he would definitely be able to cultivate. The next morning, Hanju began to exercise, collecting the chi of heaven and earth to gain good luck. He didn't know what kind of surprise the system would bring him today. 1,000-year useless spiritual root talent. This shock made Hanju feel as if he had been stabbed 10 times. Although he felt somewhat disheartened, he was still angry. But there was one more chance to shake for innate luck, so Hanju endured the pain and continued shaking. Unexpectedly, this time he rolled 4 super innate lucks: Peerless, Destiny Swordsman, Unmatched Agility, and the descendant of the Immortal Emperor. Needless to say, Hanju was stunned. Before, he hadn't rolled anything. This time, he rolled 4 at once. He rolled on the grass, enjoying the joyful feeling. Indeed, when good things happen, the spirit feels lighter. Next, he just needed to focus on rolling the spiritual root talent to complete the combination. With these 4 exceptional lucks, he would shake for several decades with even more enthusiasm. After 2 lifetimes, Hanju was determined to live brilliantly. He couldn't spend his whole life working like a slave in this medicine garden. That afternoon, everyone was gathered to meet the 2 immortals from Yuling sect. A man and a woman walked in, both with expressions that said, "I'm your boss." The servants below looked up, their necks almost aching. Is this what immortals look like? It's obvious they're powerful. I wish I could become like them. Hanju sneered, "Wait until I awaken my supreme spiritual root. Those people will be nothing more than mosquitoes." The man said that from today onward, he would be in charge of guarding the herb garden, and the servants were not to disturb their cultivation. Hanju felt confused after hearing this. What's going on with Iron Elder? The woman then said that recently, some demon cultivators had broken into the sect, so Iron Elder had to go out on business. They would take his place to protect the herb garden and everyone. Hanju breathed a sigh of relief. At least until I awaken my supreme root, there will be someone to protect my life. From the beginning until now, I've just been doing some boring things. In reality, the cultivation world is not a peaceful and beautiful place. Fortunately, I've kept my life. And the system is my protective talisman. I wonder if this system is still usable. But it's been 2 years already. And up until now, not even a high-level spiritual root has appeared. Hanju gradually lost his confidence. He longed for cultivation but only had a medium-level spiritual root. Still, he had made up his mind to reach the peak and become a legend in this lifetime. While he was pondering, a voice came from outside, "Hey, everyone stop what you're doing and go meet the master." Outside, Iron Elder stood in front of all the servants and animals. He had been gone for 2 years, but there hadn't been any issues with their work, so they were all happy. Everyone greeted Iron Elder with smiling faces. It's what we, humble ones, should do. It's an honor to relieve the master's worries. Hanju rolled his eyes again, a bunch of sycophants. No matter how sweet their words are, Iron Elder won't give them more food. While mocking Iron Elder, Hanju was called forward by him, along with some young people. As they walked, they curiously asked what was going on. Unexpectedly, Iron Elder actually wanted to check their spiritual root talents. Hanju was puzzled. He had never allowed the servants to cultivate before. Why suddenly check them? Suddenly, he noticed the bloodstains on Tai Lao's collar. While still thinking, it was Hanju's turn to inspect. His gaze seemed as though it could devour him alive. Hanju extended his hand, sweat pouring down like rain. Did this old man want to turn them into medicinal materials or something? No spiritual root. Next. After Hanju finished the inspection, he breathed a sigh of relief. Luckily, he hadn't used the cultivation system. The next person actually had spiritual roots. Tai Lao didn't punish him, instead taking him out of the valley and accepting him as a disciple to cultivate. The boy, Zhang O, was ecstatic and immediately agreed. The others congratulated him. In the future, he will be a different kind of immortal from us, really lucky. Only Hanju had a dark expression. Once they left this valley, they might never see the sun again. Another 3 years passed, and a long howl echoed from Hanju's home, signaling good news. He rolled on the ground, cheering excitedly. This time, he rolled out 6 high-level attributes, the 6 essences of the Tao, including wind, fire, water, earth, wood, and lightning, an all-encompassing spiritual root. After suffering for these decades, Hanju still hadn't started cultivating. It was all Tai Lao's fault. No one knew how Zhang O was doing. He hadn't seen him for 3 years. Seeing Hanju troubled by this, the system prompted to help him create a barrier, making it so no cultivator could detect any changes in him. Finally, the system did something useful. Hanju immediately agreed. From today onward, he officially embarked on the path of cultivation, aiming to become the greatest in the world. A dazzling light appeared. Moments later, Hanju found himself in another space-time, and the system summarized Hanju's life in a few sentences. The key was inviting him to choose his cultivation path, as he possessed 6 mysterious powers of heaven and earth. Hanju didn't know whether to choose sword cultivation, lightning cultivation, wood cultivation, fire cultivation, water cultivation, earth cultivation, or wind cultivation. Hanju spent years before rolling out the complete 6 reincarnation paths, and now, to only choose one cultivation path seemed not worth it. After thinking for a while, he decided to choose sword cultivation. A straight man must wield a sword to be powerful. The system began to cultivate, and Hanju felt as though his entire body was immersed in the flow of energy. The system also reminded him to take care of himself from now on, because once he embarked on the cultivation path, 1,000 years would pass like a dream, and there would be no turning back. From now on, he must work hard to improve his attributes. The system interface also changed, and Hanju had no time to adapt, but this relationship interface seemed somewhat new. He tried to click into it to take a look. To his surprise, the first one to appear was Iron Old Man. He really hated Hanju. If he had known Hanju had spiritual roots, he surely wouldn't have let him off. Hanju was so angry that he spat blood. He had worked hard to grow medicine for him since birth, yet he harbored hatred for him. But after thinking for a moment, he realized that the old man must have developed a grudge because his parents abandoned him. In recent years, he had been running all over the place, and Hanju could now safely focus on his cultivation. Time was of the essence, so Hanju immediately began to improve his cultivation. Once he reached the 9th level of chi refining, he would leave this place. Let's see what that old man, Iron Old Man, could do with his chi refining at the 7th level. When he put his hands together and focused on cultivation, Hanju could see bubbles of all sizes. They seemed to be spiritual energy, but he could only sense wind, earth, water, and wood. Though he couldn't see lightning and fire, Hanju decided to use these 4 types of spiritual energy to cultivate for now. The system gave him 2 options once he embarked on the cultivation path. One was to become a peerless genius and show off, which would grant him a chi refining artifact. The other was to humbly cultivate, which would unlock the ability to conceal his cultivation and spiritual roots. Without much thought, Hanju chose the second option. He worked hard to cultivate every day. 2 years quickly passed. Hanju was still fully dedicated to growing herbs. He hoped the spiritual herbs would grow quickly so he could benefit from them. His 4 types of spiritual energy had all reached the 7th level of chi refining. The effect on promoting the growth of the herbs was significant. Hanju looked around, hoping no one would notice him here today. Hanju returned with his basket. A few girls were focused on eating dragon fruit by the river, and when they saw him, they screamed, "Oh my God, He's so handsome and knows how to grow herbs. I wish I could take him home as my husband. They used to not even glance at him, but ever since he started cultivating, his charm had become evident. Stealing the spotlight wasn't a good thing. Why didn't the system help him hide it? As he was troubled, Xing Hongchuan suddenly blocked his way and asked him to come with her into the woods. Hanju followed her, feeling confused. She has been helping Iron Old take care of the herb garden all these years, and hasn't interacted with someone like you, a mere medicine slave. What does it mean to suddenly call you over? Hanju then asked the system, only to be surprised that her affection for him had reached 2 stars. His mind was in a complete mess. The two of them had never had any physical contact. How could she possibly be interested in him? Hanju held his head. This is bad. This time it's a real mess. It must be that alluring power at fault. If she uses him as a furnace for dual cultivation, it might be pleasurable, but also very painful. Xing Hongchuan saw him holding his head and took the initiative to speak, trying to relax him. I'm not trying to make things difficult for you. I just want to ask if you're willing to be a medicine slave for the rest of your life. Hanju didn't understand what she wanted, scratched his head, and pretended not to know, saying he wasn't sure what to do. Xing Hongchuan then made a suggestion. As long as you help me with one thing, I'll take you to practice immortality and free you from your mortal identity. Haha, I don't know what the fairy wants me to do. Hanju thought she would ask him to do something very difficult, but it turned out to be something far beyond his imagination. That is, to steal Iron Old's alchemy formula, and then she would take him to join the demon sect, even possibly making him her husband. Hanju was stunned on the spot. He didn't expect that there was a demon cultivator infiltrating the herb garden in Yuqing sect. Now he was in a dilemma. Offending Yuqing sect would lead to being hunted down to the ends of the earth. But if he refused, Xing Hongchuan would silence him. In this deep mountain forest, even if he screamed, no one would come to rescue him, and Iron Old wasn't around either. Xing Hongchuan seemed very confident that he wouldn't say a word and even gave him time to think. Both were at the 7th layer of qi refining, but Hanju had never learned spells, nor did he have any magical artifacts, so he couldn't fight her for now. So, he pretended to be a foolish boy to escape. I don't know where that thing is, and you have the same sect members guarding Iron Old's pavilion. Suddenly, Xing Hongchuan turned around sharply, forcefully pressing Hanju's head to the ground without mercy. Of course, it's in Iron Old's pavilion. That old man is out looking for longevity herbs and probably won't be back for years. As for the guards, you don't need to worry about that. At that time, I'll lead them away. It shouldn't be hard for you to find the alchemy formula, right? As for Hanju's lack of cultivation, she had already prepared a pill to help him unlock his spiritual roots, making it easier for him to act. Hanju cursed inwardly. This is really poisonous. What kind of pill is this? She directly shoved the pill into his mouth, forcing him to swallow it. Then she leaned in close to Hanju and praised him. Good, don't worry. After it's successful, I'll pamper you as my husband. Back home. Hanju tried to figure out how to vomit out that pill. Drive it out of the body through the system. He wiped his mouth, filled with hatred, but now he didn't know whether to follow Xing Hongchuan's advice. The people of the demon sect are ruthless. Even if he helps her, there is no benefit, and he might even get bitten back. In the end, the system gave a choice. Help Hanju handle this situation. If he steals the pill recipe, he will gain Xing Hongchuan's trust and get 5 hate stars from Yuqing sect. If he doesn't help, he will receive the swordsmanship of the Zhu Jishin sword. As long as he doesn't help her, he can gain a new skill, and the mission won't need to be said. Hanju would naturally choose the second option. That night, Hanju waited for Xing Hongchuan. She had already found out that the pill recipe was in Old Iron's study. Once she lures the guards away, he can sneak in quietly. Before leaving, she specifically reminded. Remember, there is a formation in the pavilion. If anything goes wrong, Old Iron will return immediately. There's no time to waste, you need to hurry. An hour later, Hanju arrived at the pavilion. Looking at the guard who was killed with his eyes still open, Hanju sighed. Xing Hongchuan said she had lured him away. But she directly killed the person. She truly is a female demon. Soon, the voices of other guards were heard. She ran that way, hurry and chase to inform Old Iron. Hanju took the opportunity to sneak into Old Iron's study. Compared to his house, this place was 10 times bigger. Hanju searched for a while but found nothing. Obviously, Xing Hongchuan was quicker than him in sneaking in to find the pill recipe, so why bother recruiting him? There must be something wrong with her head. Hanju picked up a golden brush, his eyes sharp like a knife. People are really different. The old man's pen is made of gold, while we drug slaves can only use the cheapest things. Truly a malicious old landlord. What are you talking about? Did you find the pill recipe? Xing Hongchuan appeared behind him, scaring Hanju. For some reason, his voice became weak. Not yet, there are too many things here. Are you being lazy? Xing Hongchuan didn't listen to Hanju's excuse. She didn't want to keep playing this cat-and-mouse game with him. After all, her hands were already stained with too much blood. Killing one more wouldn't be a big deal. Hanju quickly stepped back. He accidentally bumped into the bookshelf. The white bottle fell from above onto the floor. It smashed to pieces, revealing what was inside. Is this a pill recipe? The two of them stared at the scroll that rolled onto the ground. With a dark expression, Hanju cursed inwardly. This old man actually hid something so important in such a dangerous place. Seeing Xing Hongchuan rush up, Hanju panicked. If she got the pill recipe, she would definitely kill him. To his surprise, she actually leaped onto Hanju, and her tone was completely different from the murderous one earlier. It really is you, truly my lucky charm. I didn't expect someone as honest as you to create romance. Han Ju handed the pill recipe to Xing Hongchuan, while also discarding the divine sword of absolute finger. But he felt her aura was unstable. Probably because she had used up a lot of energy earlier to distract those guards. Hanju grabbed the nearby inkstone and used all his strength. He wanted to give her a heavy blow. But just at that moment, a force attacked them. The pill recipe fell into Old Tai's hands, and Old Tai was angrily standing at the door. Dare to pry into my pill recipe, you're really audacious. Xing Hongchuan was a little surprised to see him back earlier than expected. It turned out that Old Tai had returned long ago, but was waiting for her to reveal her true form. He had his eyes on her as soon as she arrived. Over the years, the other disciples had no interest in coming to the medicine garden, only these two were definitely up to something. Old Tai's attack was fierce, seemingly in control of the situation. As expected, Xing Hongchuan had consumed quite a bit of energy after distracting the guards. Trying to seize the pill recipe now was difficult, escaping was the only viable option. It would also be hard for Old Tai to catch up. Because these demon cultivators had created the perfect escape technique after being hunted by the Yuling sect for thousands of years. It was only then that Hanju woke up in pain, pretending to hold his head. The master has finally returned. I almost lost my life at the hands of the female demon. Old Tai still thought Hanju was working with her. But after listening to his story, he realized that it was like this. You were also just used by her. She wanted to cultivate you into a husband, and you actually believed that. After being reprimanded, Elder Tai told Hanju to go home and sleep. The system delivered the Juji divine sword to Hanju as promised. In the end, he finally had a way to fight. 2 years passed quietly, but Hanju kept growing. Now he could even chop firewood using spells, and his swordsmanship had reached a usable level. Today was his last time chopping firewood. This herb garden could no longer help him cultivate. Over the past 2 years, Hanju had cultivated all 4 types of spiritual roots to the 9th layer of the Qi refining realm. As long as he cultivated the thunder and fire elements, he could break through to the foundation establishment realm. But there was no thunder or fire spiritual energy around the herb garden, so he had to leave. As he walked, Hanju thought about how to quietly leave this place. Recently, Elder Tai had been appearing less and less. His cultivation had stagnated at the 7th layer of the Qi refining realm. Not everyone could break through as easily as he did. This was the difference between having a system and not having a system.